Welcome to another figure week, hard surface week, organic week.
Hey everyone, my name is Ahmed Al-Douri. I'm a concept artist and former instructor at Art Center College of Design, Brainstorm, CCS, CGMA, and various other places. And I would like to introduce to you this digital painting course that I've created. But before we get into anything, I just want to thank you for the support you've all given me this whole time. And with the support of so many of you, I've been able to put together everything I know about painting into this digital painting course. You want to become a pro illustrator, concept artist, or even just a hobbyist, but you don't have a clear map to get there. And that's where I come in. I spent the last 6 months compiling everything I know from my 20 years of art practice, and I've turned it all into a map. Starting with foundations such as rendering shapes, color theory, painting basic subjects, understanding brushwork, brush economy, all that fun stuff, deconstructing the skull, drawing it from every angle, all the way to master studies, stylized painting, and you'll find yourself at the end of the course doing a concept art project based on everything that we learn in the first 14 lessons. So how does it work? Well, you sign up, you watch the lectures, do the assignments, post them to the community page if you want, and treat it as a self-study, except for those of you who have signed up for the weekly meeting, where I personally critique your work in a virtual classroom setting. I believe learning by repetition is super important, and that's what I've sort of presented a lot in this course, and the assignments are tailored for that, as adapted from my time teaching at Art Center. And each of these lessons have step-by-step explanations in real time. If you've ever seen my videos, you know exactly how I teach. And this course is intended to be a substitute for a college level course, but you don't have to pay the $4,000 or $5,000 per class, racking up maybe $200K in debt. With my custom design course, you'd be paying a fraction of that. And of course, I also have payment plan options if you don't want to pay for the whole thing at once. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you soon.
Hey guys, welcome back to Digital Artcast. Here again with another killer episode. This one I can assure you is going to be really good. You guys have been really vocal in the Discord. You've been really excited about some of the challenge things we've been doing, where people have, excuse me guys, been doing some 90-minute challenges where they design a character or have a brief and come up with a concept in an hour and a half. So I've also been reaching out to people that I know, trying to see if anybody else would be interested. And luckily we got another person to join us. One of the ones we got not too long ago was, of course, TCK, Tom Chamberlain Keane. And now, luckily, Forrest Imel has agreed to come on and chat to us and also do a live demo while we're here. We've given him a brief, which I'll include in the video version of this, of course. You guys can kind of follow along and see what Forrest comes up with. But of course, before we start, welcome along our today's guest and artist, Mr. Forrest Imel. I'm going to say hey Forrest, but for some reason I cannot unmute your mic. Why is that? Oh God.
I don't know, but
There we
does
go.
it work now?
Hey.
I unmuted it myself, so I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
As long as that works.
Yeah, I misclicked that. So anyway, yeah. Technical difficulties aside, welcome Forrest, welcome back to Digital Artcast. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm ready to draw things. Ready to draw
tackle this.
werewolf children.
Yes, yeah, it's a strange brief. You guys will probably be seeing it on the screen now. I'll include it in the show notes as well. We're using Concept Start website, which obviously it's a really cool website. If you guys don't know about it, you can find it down in the link below. But they generate briefs, depending on what you kind of pick. But I went for a fantasy character because I thought it was more within Forrest's wheelhouse. We got some interesting crossovers. So we have a Worgen as the person he's going to be drawing. So werewolf person is going to be male. The age group is a child, which I think again will be interesting because I don't think a lot of people actually draw children. It's quite a weird thing actually to be drawn.
No, they're lame. They're lame to draw. Yeah. That's
why. Role as a preacher, which again I found interesting. They'll be carrying a combat knife of some description with a necklace or neck charm around their neck. They're missing fingers. And then the rest, I mean, I kind of ticked all the boxes, but if Forrest wants to maybe veto something, we can. I mean, I know they wanted to include, some different kind of elements from different cultures, and it's intended for an MMO game. It's targeted 18 plus. I mean, that's kind of standard stuff. But is there anything you would want to maybe slightly change before you start, or do you think? What do you think?
What, as far as the brief goes?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything you think would maybe one thing particularly you would think that would maybe be a hindrance or something that want to maybe dodge?
The best thing is just like trying to take all of these things and somehow make something cool out of it. So
right,
like that's the goal here. Which I have some ideas. The whole is pronounced Mughal Empire.
Yeah, I'm not 100% what that is.
I want to look into that. Like, and that's probably what I'm going to start with, because like everything else seems pretty straightforward, where it's like, all right, there's like werewolf kid guy that's like maybe the son of a preacher or something and not a preacher themselves. With like
it says child, but you could probably go maybe like, teen, late teen, something like that.
I'll probably go
younger,
something like that. Yeah. I've been watching Demon Slayer a lot, so maybe I'll just do something like around like that age group.
Oh, that'd be interesting actually, because Demon Slayer has like got some really awesome characters in it. So funny enough, I was watching Rich Carey's Instagram feed, and he went to one of the shrines in Tokyo where like the lead character was based off, and he was getting one of the little charms basically.
Oh, that's cool.
Mughal
Empire. This is what I do with like everything. I'll just enter it in Pinterest.
Like, oh, what's this? This is interesting. Yeah.
All right, Pinterest isn't direct enough. Now I gotta look this up. I'm only doing this because this is literally like part of my process. Is like if I see something I'm not familiar with, I'm just gonna look it up and like read a bit about it. And it's like, all right, conventionally said to have been founded 1526, Empire in South Asia. Okay. Interesting. Causes of decline. Military culture. Culture is probably what I want to see. Imperial rule that consolidated smaller. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I'm going to loosely go off of it. I'm probably going to do it in like the most like offensive way, and then I'll just take general shape languages and be like, sure, like that fulfills enough of what I'm going for. I'm going to focus mostly on like the preacher aspect, and so like whatever a preacher would be in this case, like what's the equivalent of a preacher? Is that like a priest?
I'm assuming so. Like maybe something like of that. I'm assuming it'd be more like it would be the similar kind of thing where they wear a lot of kind of robes, or they have religious beads hanging off them, or maybe a specific type of headwear. Or
if I look up Mughal priest, let's see. I don't think this is probably part of the same culture. I don't know. Mughal India, Jesuit priest, 17th century.
Okay, so it's Indian mostly then.
Yeah, it seems like it took up. I mean, it just said generally like Southeast Asia, so I'm assuming India was like part of the territory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies to anyone if we're getting this wrong, but we're trying our best here. We got a curveball kind of thrown at us, so.
Yeah, I mean, it depends too, because like if a client sent me this brief, like generally like most of the time it's not as clear cut as like, oh, it has to be like a part of this empire, unless it's part of like some sort of like a alternate reality historically based fiction game like Assassin's
Right.
Creed, or like God of War uses like influences of Greek or Norse
Yeah.
mythology or whatever. Like,
Of course.
unless it's something like that, it's not going to be super direct. Most of the time I feel like clients tend to just want like shape language implications.
Right.
um
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what I'm going to take it as.
Yeah.
This is getting a little bit more like, I don't know if like modern's the right word, but this is kind of like,
Yeah.
obviously this is not
This century
bold
kind of thing.
interpretations. But this kind of stuff is cool. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and that's what I'm going for right now, is I think this kind of thing would be cool. Like, I like face markings and like face paintings and stuff like that. Like, I think there's some cool things that I could do with that. I also like the
It's interest-
overgrown, like the rough like hair and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to
with
say,
it.
I don't know how you're going to spin the organ, because obviously there's two sides to a organ, which is one part human, one part werewolf. So, because obviously you're trying to, I don't know if you'd have time to do both versions, but then if you were maybe going to even just focus on one, what do you think you would go for?
I'd do like it's like a half thing. Like, I'd probably show the character like kind of turning into it, like
That'd be
mid
cool.
transformation. Yeah. Oh, this is a list of emperors. At the very least, what I probably am gonna do is like, if I can just find like photos like this
Yeah.
to kind of like get me started and like
Yeah.
keep this type of stuff in mind,
Yeah.
then it'll give me a little bit clearer of a direction, like culturally.
hmm
But what I really want to know is what like a priest would be like, because I
There's
don't
a
have
picture
like
there,
yeah.
just back on your Pinterest, whatever, or you see just kind of near the bottom, if you go down a bit. Oh no. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, I just saw it there. There was a really good. The one at the bottom. Yeah, that
This
one.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like super over the top. Let's see.
I mean, if it's for an MMO game like 18 plus, then it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, similar to what kind of Black Desert is, or
Yeah.
that type of game. So
I'm also, yeah, I'm probably leaning towards the like it being an NPC,
yeah,
because I mean I could do like a class, which is like I don't know, a class could be kind of neat.
well,
Okay.
priests traditionally in Warcraft are like healers, right? They're like buffs and debuff.
Yeah, like a priest could be kind of like that. I mean, it could, like, if it's just generally preacher, if it's someone that is like religious in a sense, then it could be like just anyone that uses sort of their deity to kind of contain their power, or
Right.
release their power. So like it could be kind of like a crusader type, like paladin type thing, not like buffed up or like armored up or anything like that, but just like someone that uses their deity in a way of like releasing their power. So I'm thinking like, okay, so hey, oh man, I'm missing things in the brief though, because I know that like there has to be a dagger. Necklace is fine, that's easy to fit in. Missing
Yeah.
fingers is fine.
I just sent you an image on Facebook. I don't know if you'll get that, but like that was the first thing that came up when I entered Worgen Priest, which I thought was moving over towards the culture a bit. Maybe gives you a rough idea of it.
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because they do have Worgen priests. Well, they have Worgens, but they can also be priests. So it's more Warcraft, but less, the Muggle Empire.
See,
but,
this is the thing I never quite like. I loved when Worgens came out for WoW, but what I never quite loved was seeing wolf people just dressed like normal people. Like for whatever
okay.
reason, I love like armor. Like if you look up like Worgen WoW armor, like I know there's going to be some cool ones, but like shit like this with like top hats and stuff, like I don't. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not cool to me. Like I don't find
Yeah.
it. This is lame, but like I'm so down for, I don't know, like anything else. Honestly, I guess
Yeah.
just get rid of the hat. Just don't give wolves hats,
Hats.
and then I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's literally anything that doesn't have a hat. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's neat. Great. Just don't give it a little top hat. All right. Okay, let me start this. I haven't warmed up or anything today. I'm going to be so rusty. Just draw circles. Practice.
Okay, so we'll go for 10 minutes of warm up, and then we'll hit the timer.
All right. I mean, you could just start it. I'll just be doodling.
You wanna?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so hitting the start button now. You could probably just start fleshing out some ideas anyway, right?
Yeah. That's what I was going to do anyway. I might just be like slower to get some of the ideas down or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
But right now, like what I usually do, even though this is just like, it's just concepting stuff out. Actually, yeah, I don't need to zoom in. So here, I'll just do it like this. I just want to do like various like poses that I think could like, I don't know, could kind of showcase the like mood that I'm going for. Because it's not as important when you do concept work. Like it's not, or at least it's not something that as many people like consider to be important.
Yeah.
But like because ultimately like you could just do like a standing person and it's fine. Like it'll get, you know, the visuals across and stuff. But like if you really want to showcase like this is the mood that this character is going to be feeling or emitting or whatever, like it helps to show that even in like the concept stage. So that's what I want to try and figure out is like what exactly, like, you know, are they super proud of being like a worgen? So would they be like standing with their like arms back and their hand on their chest, like looking pompously like down on someone, you know, like would they do that, or would they be like defeated and like, or would they be like hunched over as they're like transforming? So that's kind of what I want to like figure out. And I think right now I want to do one that's like hunched over mid transformation.
Right.
That looks like a little like feral. Like I think that could be kind of cool. And that's just kind of like where my head is at with it. But
yeah. I mean, I think something you're doing as well is something I've noticed students avoid, but something I've started doing later into my life of drawing is that, like really early on when you're sketching, like you're super loose. You're almost not even paying attention to anatomy. You're just trying to get like the shape down, just like, you know, like the gesture. And because I see people obviously, you know, when you start drawing really early on, you're super concerned about detail and, you know, like fixating on like maybe one hand when you're trying to maybe just try to get like, you know, like a big shape down at the start.
yeah, most of what I like, I do think gesture is important. Most of the time when I'm working on things, I just am thinking about the relation of like the torso and the pelvis.
Right.
Because like if it's upright like this, it kind of, you know, it implies a lot. Just this alone implies a lot of like mood, you know, and like how someone feels versus like if I were to do this and have like a downward facing like torso and like an upward facing pelvis, because that's just how it goes. It's just one, when one goes forward the other goes back and vice versa. And so like this just really already implies like some like, I don't know, it doesn't directly imply like negativity, but it's like sad or like angry or weak or whatever, and this is like strong and upright. And so like I just thinking about like relations between that and then where they're at in space. So if I'm doing like a downward thing, then I need to decide like, okay, if I have this relation where I've got the torso pointing like down and then pelvis pointed up or straight or whatever. Like I'm considering where they lie in like 3D space if I'm looking at it from like a side view. And then I'm considering other things. I'm considering like a twist. So there's a twist added in there to get the pose to look a little bit more dynamic. Proportionally, in order to get the kid proportions, I just kind of naturally do like a bigger head.
Right.
And then from here, once I've got the torso, it's just about like maintaining balance of the pose, as well as trying to find a way that like if it was a hunched over pose, and let's say he's like just kind of doing like cool werewolf pose or whatever, like maybe he's growling at someone or whatever, then like chances are the way I would do it is if this torso is twisting backwards like this, then I'd have this arm probably go and follow suit gesturally and also go back. And then if this arm's going back, then I want this leg to go forward, because that's just going to cause like a nice twist in the body and look good. And it's probably just naturally what would happen. And so if this leg's going forward, then this leg is not as active. So this leg's not going forward, because then it's just like weird and off balance. And so once I've got that relation in there, then it's just about finishing it up and like figuring out, you know, like where do all these limbs like line up or whatever. And then
I was almost going to say it was almost like the Naruto run you were drawing there, kind of, you know, the hands behind the back kind of thing.
Almost. But yeah, it's just like I am thinking a lot about the anatomy, but it's all just really simple, like simple things. And I mean, I'm going to change like so much of this when I decide on what pose I'm going to go with anyway, that like I'm not too worried about like this guy proportionally is not right. And I'm not, it's fine. Like I can finish that later on if I really wanted to. And instead it's just about like getting these rough ideas out so that I can move on, I guess.
Yeah, of course. That wasn't a dig at you, Forrest, saying you didn't know shit about anatomy. It's more just
I
like
I didn't think it was. I just thought like it might be useful to like explain like what is going on in my brain.
That's what I'm saying. I think the more experience you have, I just meant, you know, the kind of looser you get in general when you're starting to craft out ideas. It's more just about the overall look than you know, specific, you know, muscles or you know, proportions for things. So
I think I like this one though.
I was going to say, I kind of like what you're doing with that one. And the one above it, I think, also was a contender for me.
This one, I like this because I like the twisting motions and stuff that's implying. So I'll see if I can kind of keep that in the final. So I'm going to put all these in a folder, and then I'll just keep this one here. And then from here, what I'll probably do is probably work on like slightly refining, just so that I know for sure like what direction certain things are going to be going, or at least a little bit. I'll be a little bit more sure about the direction certain shapes are going. And then from there, I'll probably just start roughing in some like large shapes for the overall design. I want to keep in mind that this is like a kid. So I don't want to give him like superhero muscles or anything like that.
Nothing's really fully developed yet.
Yeah. Even if he is a werewolf.
It's like Teen Wolf, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's a super attractive hot kid wolf.
Like an E-boy or something, but werewolf style.
Yeah. So yeah, just gonna try and like make sure that I have like a decent mannequin basically to like start drawing on top of.
I think a lot of fantasy stuff's been ruined for me since I watched Castlevania, because like the designs for a lot of the stuff they pushed for that was like, especially the armor stuff, like you're talking about armor, like a lot of the the Alucard Dracula stuff. Like, it was just so well done.
I still haven't watched the Castlevania. I watched like the first season, but
Yeah,
I for whatever reason I don't know. I wasn't super into it.
yeah,
But it's been a long time since I watched it.
yeah. I think the animations definitely for me were something that sold it. It was really well done, especially in the first season. Like, I felt they maybe had a bit more time. I feel like the second season they maybe had to get it out, the next year, so they maybe didn't have the same window. But the designs were really well done. So everybody at Powerhouse is a powerhouse of a person anyway. Like, there's especially like Jose, because we had him on at one point. He's with Wizards now. He's went to Magic. So
is that Jose Vega?
Jose Vega?
Yeah. He does really cool stuff.
Wizards of the Coast now. He's world building, I think is what he's doing there now. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Let's see. He's looking a little more like zombie-like because of his head tilt. So I'm going to have his head look a little bit more towards us and be like more determined.
Straight at the camera, growling kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. But this is getting to a point that like the anatomy is definitely not final, but it's good enough where like I could just start roughing up some like some kind of loose designs. I also want to make sure that at this point the proportions are okay, which right now they aren't. But like this is kind of generally my process for things. I tend to take a little bit more time usually on my own. But like, and also a lot of these steps I would end up like showing to a client.
Yeah. How often would you feed back typically, especially for character stuff?
Like, how often would I send it to a client?
Yeah, kind of like at what point would you, kind of think, right, now send this, now this is needing feedback from somebody else?
So yeah, I would send it when I have like thumbnails. So this technically, like posing, because that's not necessarily what they're hiring me for.
Of course, yeah.
Like I wouldn't really send that. Because really like I could send them just like a flat nothing, but have a really cool design, and it's like as long as they can see that, then like they'd be fine with it. But so the posing is just like something to help sell the design even more so. So like I'm gonna like wrap this portion up, and then I'll start working on like the actual like shape language and stuff on top of this. So after I do a rough of that and then clean that up slightly, that's probably the first time I'd send it to a client. Which is probably like, it's still like only a day's worth of work or so. Depending on the project and like how much exploration has to go into it and stuff.
I mean, the pose and stuff is more like storytelling, right? Like you're trying to convey the personality of the person, or like a certain.
It's mood. The difference of like if I had like this guy, and he's just like hi and like waving, and like then I do him as like this crazy like cool priestly werewolf dude. It's like that's a way different vibe than if I'm doing it like this. Of course, so, I just want to like kind of show the client like I get it. Like I get what you're trying to do, and I'm there with you. Just gonna play around like with proportions a bit. His legs are bothering me still.
Because it's interesting, because if you, depending on what stage of the transformation, like it's going to be like pads and paws instead of feet, and then it would be like a snout instead of a nose. Like that's where I think when I looked at that, I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting, because then how, like, which parts do you show, which parts do you not show? Like that's probably going to be the most interesting thing to watch, is like how those gaps are filled in. like even the eyes, like it's the Teen Wolf thing. I think talking about Michael J. Fox back in the day, but it was always the eyes and the teeth first, right? That was the first thing that like you kind of saw when he looked in the mirror. Like his eyes were going bright yellow, and he had the fangs.
Yeah.
Started growing a bit of hair, so
Yeah, I want to do like some kind of crazy like really wild hair that kind of gets like big and overgrown and unruly and stuff. And then I do think playing around with like I did like some of the like face paint patterns. Like I think that kind of thing is pretty cool. So I might play around a little bit with that. Kind of depends on like how I want to tie in some of these designs. I mean, as far as the brief goes, like all I need is he needs a knife and a necklace. And then as long as everything is kind of within this like shape language or design aesthetics of the Mughal Empire, then like should be fine. So I think, well,
I mean, the knife kind of makes sense because a lot of priests, even during wartime, a lot of them would carry weapons, but because it was they didn't wear a lot of heavy clothing, then stuff like knives were easier to conceal. So it probably makes more sense as well for the character. So, like even on that back arm, because he looks like he's about to sneak up on somebody and take their life. So a knife in the backhand could be cool. But yeah.
I want to do like
I'm just going to occasionally, by the way, also drop in. That's 15 minutes gone, so just to keep you up to date.
How much?
15 minutes have gone. So
15.
Yeah, so we're at 1 hour 13 now.
I thought you said 50 at first, and I was like, "Oh Jesus, what happened?"
Fuck.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you've not been sketching for that long. Although probably it's hard to obviously contemplate time when you're kind of lost in design. So
yeah. It's definitely
also with I was going to say as well, just people, especially concept artists, talk to me about you can even if you can draw super well, like design is still such a key thing. I mean, how do you feel as a concept artist or a concept designer, as they're probably now called? How do you feel you flex that muscle? Because at one point, obviously, you get good at drawing, right? You can draw people. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to flex the muscle of being able to draw stuff like anatomy anymore. So how do you then build on the design stuff?
I mean, it's a good question because design is something that like is so different than like normal fundamentals. Like or just like your average like technical fundamentals, because it's very like ambiguous and it's up to interpretation. It's like I don't like Tim Burton's design aesthetics, but people do. Some people do. Mm-hmm. And so like and there are things that people like about it, and like there are like it's a vibe that you get from it where you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, like these people in his movies or shows or whatever are like creepy looking but kind of cute, and so it has this like creepy cute aesthetic. So I guess it's like successful at doing that, assuming that's the goal. But like that's why design is weird, because it just depends. It's so dependent on what the goals are of the project. So like you wouldn't design a character the same way for like, I don't know, like a Spyro game than you would for like God of War or something. And like you could, but both of those designs that you could do could still be super cool. It's just one only really works for like the one project because of just the way that it's drawn up. And a lot of it just has to do with like, it has to do with shape language, size of shapes, the orientation of how they're placed on the character. Like what I'm going to go for here is like, for the most part, realism, but not fully realistic. Because like, if I was going full realism, like if I was treating this like a Pathfinder character or something, I'd be thinking way more about like, where does this character go? Like, what do they carry with them? Like they're probably going to have like a canteen, and they'd have like their knife, but maybe they'd have like a relic here, and maybe they'd have like all this other shit that they'd carry with them because they're an adventurer or something. But I'm going to just lean towards the design aesthetics that I tend to like, which is that I really like, I like bigger shapes, but I like simpler designs. I like more streamlined designs that like
Yeah.
because you know people tend to not wonder about things that aren't shown to them. So like no one, no one's playing like I'll use Spyro or Crash Bandicoot as an example. It's like no one's playing Spyro or Crash Bandicoot and being like, well, now wait a minute, where's their canteen? They are traveling this whole time. Why aren't they? Why aren't they drinking water? Like this is ridiculous. And it's like it's the same thing when you look at like superhero movies and stuff. Like there's
Yeah.
people that obviously can complain about like I don't know, like Wonder Woman's design and stuff because like oh she's got all this like exposed skin, but like most people that watch that are just like they just want to see like Wonder Woman do cool shit. And so it doesn't matter too much about like does this design like is it realistic, for this thing. It only matters if the movie is putting emphasis on its realism.
Totally. Yeah. And I think also it's with their design as well. If you look back to kind of ancient Amazonian stuff as well, with those cultures, like that was kind of what they wore anyway. So it was more about flexibility in battle and less about, what was comfortable to wear. So, yeah, it's a lot of those guys, especially, I mean, you and I both know the guys who work in those departments, they definitely do the research. So, I mean, the stuff they're designing. And then obviously you want to stay true to the character in the comics as well. You don't want to change too much stuff and then it starts to become like a foreign concept. It doesn't look like Wonder Woman anymore. So,
Right.
yeah. It's like putting Batman in like a film and thinking, well, capes aren't really that practical, so we'll take the cape away. But then the cape is like what basically is the iconic form of Batman. So
Yeah. I mean, and it just, it just depends on what the goal is of the movie itself. It's like you can find superhero movies that like, it does show like a practical way of like having their suit or whatever. And it's not like, and it's fine. It's just, it depends on like what they want
the mood
out of the story.
I think Watchmen was a more realistic interpretation because a lot of those guys weren't really superheroes. Well, apart from maybe Dr. Manhattan, a lot of them were just everyday people that wanted to be superheroes. So it was less about flair, more about, like the comedian. Well, his suit was taken from like his army fatigues and stuff. So,
right.
Yeah. And obviously Rorschach was like just a guy in a mask and he just had a trench coat. So, yeah. I always really loved. I was just going to say Watchmen in general. Just thinking about that film again, I really did love that universe.
So here I'm going to start working on like another design, just because I don't know. Like this one's fine, but I don't know if it's really the one that I want to go with. So I'm just going to like branch out and see what else I can do. Like I think I might try one that uses like more long flowing kind of like robes and stuff, and try and get some of that kind of like priest
scarf
vibe
motif
in there. Because I think that could be cool.
Yeah, it's always the long flowing capes or like scarves, cowls. Like a lot of that stuff is definitely the cool vibe, like the cool aspect of design, because it makes it. I think it gives motion to the characters. Is what I think it kind of delivers. I don't know if you feel the same, but like I definitely feel like the flowing material thing. It just makes it seem more. There's more movement in the character, basically.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it all depends on the character that you're going for. It's like if I don't want it to, if I were doing like something more versatile, like a rogue type character or something, like I might have some free flowing stuff, but I usually tend to like a balance of like I like these silhouette breaking shapes combined with like tight wrappings around anatomy, because I do think that like it's why like a lot of the time I like doing sleeves that maybe are like tight around the upper arm, but then get really like loose as it gets further down and stuff. Because I just like that emphasis on like anatomy. I think it looks cool when done right. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the necklace is handy as well because it does also fit the aesthetic of the priest as well, so it doesn't feel as alien. I think.
Yeah. No, we'll make this work. It's fine. We'll make the whole thing work.
Yeah, I think it's even I think it's also kind of part and parcel with younger worgans or werewolves that they can't transform as fully, I think, as the adult versions of the werewolves. Like when they transform, it's, you know, they don't, what's the word I'm trying to look for here? Like they don't physically change as much. You know, they don't have the whole snout. A lot of them just like their face stays human, but it's covered in fur. And they can't quite get the kind of claw span, or, you know, like, because they've no reached that age yet where they're kind of fully integrated into the worgen life. So it's a good balance you've got here where like they're kind of half and half, and it fits because, you know, like they're not quite there yet. So it means that you've not got to show as much of that wolf side of them anyway, basically is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, I just find this cooler. Like even just with werewolves in general. Like I think the wolves can be cool, like the full like wolf form things are really neat, but I also just like I mean, I mentioned like Demon Slayer, and it's like I've really liked seeing, like, I don't know if you've watched that or not.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting for season 2.
But like the sister in that's like half demon and stuff, and like how she looks, I really like that kind of thing. And so I think that's just kind of like what I want to go for with this is but yeah, I just think something like that could be neat.
I like did you ever play Telltale's The Wolf Among Us?
I have not. I know of it, but yeah, I haven't played it.
Mate, you need at one point. It's an incredible story, but I like how because Bigby, so the sheriff is called Bigby, but obviously after Big Bad Wolf, but they had different, like 3 or 4 stages of him as a wolf. Like there was a stage where obviously he was just fully human, and then at the opposite end of the scale as a wolf, like fully as a wolf. But the in-betweens were quite good. I like how they explored like the first stage where it's like mostly just his eyes and his teeth again, and then some fur around his arms, and then after that he kind of like hulked out and had the whole like massive shoulders and the 8-pack, and then of course like the end result of that was like he was a giant wolf. So yeah, I like the way they kind of tackled that as well.
Yeah, I read some of the like graphic novel that it was based off of, or the comics or whatever, but I never ended up playing the game. I saw a lot of it because I worked at a studio that did work for Telltale and stuff. But
nice.
But yeah,
the sequel's supposed to be coming out, is it next year? I think the second one. So
yeah, I heard about that.
It was in development for a while, but then of course they closed. So
yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a good studio.
Is the whole studio shut down now?
As far as I know, yeah. I think Skydance Interactive, I think they maintained a lot of the rights to do the Walking Dead stuff. But I think Telltale in its traditional form is gone now. A lot of those guys, a couple of guys I know, Jeremy and that, they've all moved on to some different projects.
Okay.
So yeah. Wolf Among Us, if you get a chance, it's a really good story, really well done. So, but then Telltale had a very good niche, like the story-driven stuff they were doing at the time was, I cried like a baby at the end of the Walking Dead, the first one. It was an emotional roller coaster for me.
I heard that one was good too. Yeah, I just never ended up playing any of their games, but I heard they were all good.
Yeah, too busy drawing, mate. That's it. You've got your priorities. That's probably my vice for my sins is gaming.
And I just play the same type of game over and over and over again when I have downtime, because it's comfort food.
Is it MMO stuff or
Nah,
RTS?
I play like lately it's I just play either Hearthstone Battlegrounds or like Risk of Rain 2 or something.
Oh, nice. I'm a fan of both of those. Risk of Rain recently because I got it free on the Stadia service for Google. They were giving it away.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I was at one point it's just like a an almost kind of bullet hell thing where like you're just trying to survive waves. But with
For a
40
while
pieces of equipment.
that was just like the only thing that I played. I think I put like 80 hours in it so far. I got it in like December.
Yeah. I think my most played game on Steam right now is like something like 300 plus hours, and it's Dota 2. So
Oh yeah, I never got into Dota or League or anything like that.
Yeah. Interesting though, because you done a ton of work for Artifact, right, and obviously Riot as well. So
yeah, the one time I played Dota was after I got the Artifact job. I was like, I should probably play Dota and see what this is about. And I played
see what the sniper guy's all about.
Yeah, I played like 2 games and was like, all right, that's enough. And that was it. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I couldn't get into it. I liked Heroes of the Storm a lot, but couldn't get into. Yeah, I couldn't get into the other MOBAs as easily.
I like the aesthetic you're going for here as well, where this guy's kind of like the silhouette's a bit more slimlined, more kind of streamlined stuff.
Yeah, I think I want to have one that's like a little simpler and not have him be like, I don't know, as this would be like basic bitch NPC or something. Like if there is going to be one.
Yeah.
We'll still have a little hair though coming out.
Are you thinking about that knife as well? Is that going to be in one of his hands, do you think?
I mean, it could be. Like, if this were a concept for a character, like, I could just add the knife in his hand. I could show where he keeps it on his body. If it's an MMO, it'd probably just be equipped, because I doubt that, like, MMO would, like, have it on his body or anything like that. But, I mean, honestly, I could just design, like, a knife on the side. This is probably what I would do, is I would just design it, like, on the side and, like, a flat silhouette form or something. Have the client approve that. Once it's approved, then I would just, like, attach it and put it in perspective in his hand and pretty it up and stuff. So, yeah, I'll just do, like, a basic knife design or something with whatever I pick here.
I thought it was even like the way I looked at his hand as well, as though he was all, like the handle would be facing us and the knife would be towards his rear, like almost like a assassin style blade.
Yeah, it could work like that.
Could be cool. Yeah. You are, of course, the master designer, Forrest. I'll leave it to your best judgment.
I mean, I have no level of judgment whatsoever. I just stumble my way into this whole industry.
I'm sure that's not true.
I don't know. It feels that way most of the time.
I think it's just the imposter syndrome, right? I mean, like, I was interviewing, we had an interview the other day with somebody else from a big studio, and every 5 minutes he was like, I don't know why people hire me. I don't think my stuff's that good. I was like, God, man, like, putting yourself down like every 5 minutes, like it's, like I think it's just the artist and all of us that always feels like they're going to find me out any minute. I mean, it pretty much is exactly imposter syndrome. Like you always feel like people are about to like find out like you're crap or like you don't know what you're doing or but then you're getting hired for some reason, right? People are paying you money for a purpose. So
I also just think that like you have to have a little bit of it in order to push yourself, because if you don't feel like an imposter or you don't feel like you feel like you're fine, you're like, oh yeah, I get why people hire me, like I'm super good at doing this thing. It's like, I think you can admit that to an extent, but you need to, like, if you don't have enough moments that kind of push you down in a sense and say like, hey, like you're not as good as you think you are, then like I just think that you'll stop improving a lot of the time. And but that's up to the artist if they like really care about that. Like there's a lot of artists that get in this industry and like they don't actually, that it's fine, like they're not super interested in improving at like a super fast pace or anything like that. Like generally I think most artists are like, yeah, they want to work on their craft, but like there's some artists that like, I mean, I don't think I'm at this level of crazy anymore, but for a long time, like I drove myself nuts with like the aspect of improving and like trying to figure out like what to work on next, and like not understanding why my art wasn't at like a certain level that it was at.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of touched on that when we had an interview with you not too long ago, where you talked about like really pushing yourself until like you got some gigs on like Magic and Riot, and then you were like, okay, that's, you know, something's happened. I can acknowledge it. You know, I've hit a milestone. But then probably after that point, like you said, it's probably a thing where, know that you're not practicing, you obviously are because you're working every day, but you know, you maybe weren't, like you said, like killing yourself, you know, like to, you know, because it's hard to say this thing where like, oh, you've made it, because that almost sounds arrogant in itself. But like, I mean, you were working for Riot, you were working for Magic, like you had made it, you know what I mean? Like you had some kind of feedback that what you were doing was good. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and like, I think there's some artists that they get to that point, and a lot of the time, like, they just end up not enjoying it, or they're not sure. Like, I don't know. Like,
This
you
isn't
work
what I
it,
thought it was going to be, basically.
yeah, or like you get to this point and you realize that like there's still more to do. Like it's pretty crazy to me still that like there's so much. I'm just gonna do a really stupid hairstyle here just to see how it works. Um, like working on all these IPs and like working on my art and portfolio and stuff for all these years, and like there's still so much shit to work on and improve at. And a lot of it just seems like, to most people, it just kind of seems like I don't know. It's like, I don't want to say pointless, but it's like technical stuff. It's like me if I were to draw like a head and trying to make sure that this head at even a line stage looks like it's in like decently proper perspective.
Right.
Like small shit like that. Like just practicing that type of skill, because it's so important for the commercial work that I do, that like I'm able to do something like this.
Yeah.
Even though just because I can do something like this doesn't mean that I can draw like anything actually worth drawing. You know, it's like I could draw a head in perspective and it's like, that's great. But like, unless that head is part of a really cool looking character, like no one will really give a shit except for maybe artists.
Yeah.
And so practicing stuff like that, is fine, but that, like, that's why I usually practice stuff like that, and then I'll combine it with like doodling Dragon Ball Z characters or Digimon or something like that, because like I still want to do stuff that like I think is cool.
Of course, yeah. You could have something for yourself as well.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting where it's like, you know, there's definitely different levels of people, you know, like you said, probably get to a point where you're like, you just try to train one particular muscle. I mean, again, you know Rich Carey, right? The guy I'm talking about, character artist who's in Tokyo, Japan just now.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, he at one point was, I mean, Rich is a demon. Like, he started as a 3D character artist in Creative Assembly working on the Warhammer series, and then transitioned from 3D character art to 2D concept. And then, because he was kind of doing stuff at night, and now he moved to Japan a couple of years ago to chase that dream, learn Japanese, and now he's working for Level 5, the guys who do the Ni no Kuni games, and he's working with them now in Japanese. But then, on top of all that level effort he was putting in to get across there, like, he was still, you know, working like crazy on his character stuff, and the amount of stuff he used to do with it was mind blowing. Like posing and gesture work, and he actually he thought he was getting worse at drawing on the iPad at one point because he uses so much stuff in Procreate. But what he'd actually done when he took it to the Apple Store is he found out that he'd drawn so much, he'd worn the screen away on the iPad, and that's why it wasn't working as well. So as soon as he bought a new iPad, like, he was good again. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, only Rich. But like, yeah, there's some people in this industry I think we call unicorns, where they're like, you know, like they're like super rare. You know, the guys at the top of the game who are like, you know, like killing it every day, like just constantly pushing themselves. And like you said, you know, there's some people who will get to a certain level who are like, right, this is cool, this is good enough. You know, like I'm working, I'm getting paid to be creative. This is kind of like where I want to sit. And then there's guys who just constantly, you know, want to keep pushing and getting higher and higher. So,
well, because like once you get, I mean, it's really tough because if you get into that mindset where you start kind of working on something and like trying to improve your craft, and that becomes like your everyday thing, like you start to forget what it's like to not do that.
yeah.
And so, sorry, I need to find which one of these I like. I actually think I like the latest one that I did because he feels
I was just going to say that's
like,
hitting a lot of notes for me. Like, I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
Just to let you know as well, by the way, we're at 50 minutes.
Oh, okay, cool. That should be maybe enough time.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know.
To the best of your ability, Forrest, yeah.
Yeah. But it's really tough. Yeah, like every day, like you're working on this thing and trying to improve your skill, and then getting and like trying to like adapt and do a life where you're not doing that. I mean, it is very fulfilling, which is why it's also hard to like not constantly chase that. Like it's very fulfilling when like I see my work from a year ago. Like I was just looking at my Legends of Runeterra work from like a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago. And I was comparing it to like some of my work that I'm doing right now, like for the Splash team or through West Studio. And like when I see the comparisons and like how I was handling drawing and how I was handling rendering and stuff, like other people might not be able to see it. But like when I look at it, I see such a huge difference that like I feel so much more confident with a lot of aspects of my process that I just didn't feel before. Oh, I shouldn't have done this because is it going to do? Oh, it will. One sec. My Photoshop has been doing this bug, so I have to close out of my Photoshop and then open it back up.
I think you saved the file though.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that would have been
that would
have been interesting.
That would be embarrassing.
Yeah. We can give you I've done the same for Thomas as well. We can give you an extra 10 minutes at the end. It's fine.
Nah, it should be fine. But yeah, I mean, like it is pretty addicting. When you finally like when you reach that point, when you like see those huge like milestones that you've made, it's pretty hard to not want to just keep doing that. And especially when you've convinced yourself that like this is the way to me getting better, is me just constantly doing this thing. But like unless you just do that forever, like I guess that's fine. And that's why like most people that end up really chasing those like that fundamental improvements, a lot of those people reluctantly get into teaching, I think, because they find themselves really hooked on like the learning aspect. But it's really hard for someone when they're like constantly trying to improve their skills and get better to admit that like they're worthy of teaching something.
Yeah.
Even like Craig Mullins like has talked about how like he was in it for like 30 years and was still really nervous about like teaching what he knows to students and stuff, because like I think he was just I don't know Craig at all, but like it just sounds like he was so deep in that like adventure, in that journey or that loop even of just like constantly like, okay, what do I improve on? Like, what do I need to work on with my art? What's next? That like when you finally look up from that and you lift your head up, you're like, oh, like I've learned a lot. And like, there are people that could benefit from me teaching them a thing or two.
Yeah. I even at one point was speaking to someone who, you know, was in the industry, and they were trying to learn Maya at one point for a project, and I sat down with them one night and kind of walked through some basic stuff over an hour just to try and give them an overview. And he was like, oh yeah, that was really helpful, thanks for that. And I just kind of sat back and I was like, did I just teach somebody something? Like, I didn't feel worthy at all. I mean, like, to somebody who knows nothing about Maya, like absolutely nothing, then I mean, I definitely could, walk you through the menus and the buttons and setting up the cameras and stuff. But I was kind of saying to myself, like, why, what authority do I have to teach somebody? But then the way Antonio, one of my buddies, looks at it, Antonio Staparts, like he runs Artwad, which is the online school that he's got, which is really awesome. And he teaches at such an early level because what he's finding is the teaching he's doing to people is helping reinforce the things he's learning. Like as soon as he's learning something or trying to work on a particular thing, if he then teaches it, it's then doubling down, like in his mind,
right,
what he's just learned. So
yeah, that's one thing I'm super envious of people when they do is like, I can't teach things very confidently because I'm not constantly teaching. Like it helps when I'm like more actively, like if I'm streaming on Twitch and people ask me questions or I'm like giving a quick demo or something. So like I feel pretty confident being able to teach like rendering light and shadow and stuff.
Right.
But like if someone asks me about like perspective, I'm like, I have not really taught that. I like have my own things to it, but I don't feel like confident teaching that because it's just not something that I like actively have taught in the past. But
because there's somebody always told me years ago that like there's a lot of good artists in the world, but not all artists are good teachers. So it's a fine line because teaching in itself is a skill, right? That's something you have to kind of work on to kind of get good at. So
yeah, I mean, and I think it really is just. It's what you said. It's like when you learn something, if you just teach it or practice teaching it or whatever, then like you can, I don't know, you can kind of start like building up that knowledge muscle yourself, and you build that muscle, and you also just kind of like you learn what terms like naturally kind of like gravitate or not gravitate, but like that people are attracted to, or that actually like cling to them and stuff. Like I've tried using phrases before that I just think people are like, I don't know what you meant by that. And it's because like I don't know, being self-taught, like I don't know like official art terminology for a lot of things. And so trying to come up with my own like self-taught like weird verbiage for like things that I do doesn't always click, but the more I do it, the more I find like, oh, like someone, this person understood when I mentioned this thing or whatever. So like maybe I can use that or describe this way in the future as well.
Yeah, I think it's a shame as well that I think it's hard as well at your level to do teaching because also you're working at such a high level, especially now you're in studio. Like, you've got so much work coming in, you don't really want to take your foot off the gas for too long. But then, like your basics course was like it was some of the best learning I'd done, and I think that's why I took such extensive notes and really got into it because I felt connected with what you were saying. Like it was almost like you were on my level teaching me, and I think also like the thing I loved as well was like the puns and like the funny stuff you put in there as well, like the Terminator stuff. Like it was just like you're talking about Terminators, and you had that Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, and like I was like killing myself laughing. I thought it was hilarious, but like that I think is what makes it easier because then like yourself when you're learning stuff. Like even like Loomis, I mean, the guy is a master of what he does and set a standard for the whole art industry, but his stuff can definitely be dry, like when you're trying to learn it.
Right.
And like I think the personality you brought to the teaching stuff was what I would find easier to connect with if people were like that when they taught. So
I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Of course,
yeah,
that was part of the.
It's just it's just weird. That was the only way I could do that tutorial series. Like, there's no way. Like, I thought about doing mentorships. I thought about it more seriously too. The last couple of I don't know, months. I guess I've gotten like a few people that have asked. And like the problem is, it's kind of what you were saying is that like I need to be able to teach this thing confidently, and in order to do that, I need to like actively start when I learn something. I need to go out and try and teach what I learned, and And not only that, but I need to be able to act on it. Like the thing that really drives me nuts, but I know that this is the case with a lot of people and a lot of teachers. If someone teaches something but they can't like actually act on their teachings, like I know it doesn't suddenly make the information that they said invalid,
Right.
but I just feel like as like a student, I never liked that. Like I always wanted to respect the person that I was learning from. And I felt like, and not to say that you shouldn't respect someone just because they know something but can't like enact on the thing, but like as a student, and this is kind of what I always try and go back to is like, as a student, I don't think you think that deeply about that. And instead you're just like, oh, why should I listen to this dude? He can't even fucking, he can't even draw for shit or whatever. And so like, I always wanted to make sure that like, if I taught something, I actually have to know what I'm doing and be able to act on it. Cause I know people that like, they're very, very good at speaking confidently and teaching confidently, but I've watched them, and these are like high people in the industry but I've like watched them teach and it sounds great. And then I watch them do the demo trying to explain like what it is that they're actually showing. And it's like, they can't actually do the thing that they're talking about. They think they're doing it and they're talking as if they're still doing it and as if what they're doing is still good, but they're not actually showing it accurately or teaching it accurately. And like, I just never want to be that, basically.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I definitely could connect you with people I know who have got, a skill set up where, if you need advice. But I think one of the things I found with a lot of people was when they were trying to enter that realm, they would reach out to somebody they knew who was at that level where they wanted to learn and done a kind of more one-on-one thing where they would, like they would be the guinea pig, basically. They would experiment and try and, give them assignments and feedback and stuff, and then see how that, before you start going to a wider audience, before you start taking on like, 20, 30 students or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
You just kind of, it's like anything, you just start small and then build, until you find you have some kind of flow, which is hard as well, I think, because a lot of artists are naturally introverts. So it's like, it's hard to sit with 20 people in a server and teach them something without feeling, nervous or a bit like taken back about what the fuck am I doing? So yeah. So
well, especially
yeah.
Like I've seen people that are even like, it's weird because like I think it's harder to actually I don't know if I believe this. I was gonna say I think it's harder to be a student than to be a teacher. No, I do believe that. But that being said, because of like varying personality types and stuff, it's why I think if you like want to be an effective teacher, being able to like actually do the thing, like, do what you preach. Like, I think that is effective because I know that some of the hardest working students that you'll find, there's this consistent personality type that I see where people will become obsessive. But when they become obsessive and they work hard, like they improve very quickly. But if you have a student that's improving very quickly, like you need to be able to show like what they still need to improve on. Like you constantly need to be able to challenge someone.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people that were at a student level, but they surrounded themselves with peers that like were like that they were essentially superior then, and they didn't have a mentor at that point because I grew up around just a bunch of self-taught people or whatever, and so like because of that, there's no like authority or there's no challenging of their like beliefs of like what it is that they're doing. And like you need that, like you need this person that is so clearly like better than you or more knowledgeable and can like clearly act on this thing. Because otherwise a lot of people I think just won't listen. Not everyone. Most people, I think, when they're students, because artists are naturally self-deprecating, I think a lot of people just look at whoever the teacher is and they're like, yeah, they're clearly better. Like they're better than me, or they're the teacher, so they know better.
Right.
But those really those really hardworking students, the ones that really challenge the authority and stuff, those are the ones that they're probably going to go pretty far, even if they're a little stubborn in the industry, but they're probably going to improve a lot. But they're the ones that you need to be able to kind of show, like, look, you still have a long ways to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the effect of, the more you improve and the quicker you improve, you start to get almost, well, I mean, not everybody, but there is people who start to get like an ego, I think especially in this industry, because I came in it late, right? So I left my job at 28.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a couple of years obviously going to university and learning stuff and came at the other end. But guys who already had been and had a career in their 20s and now in their 30s had worked on like these massive titles and these huge games, and like some guys were working for Magic. Like when you're that young, I say obviously 30, early 30s being young, but when you're at that stage in your life and you've already achieved like so much, some people will naturally, grow an ego where like, I'm the shit, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's only natural that it would happen because, you've worked on such incredible stuff. And of course the people around you are like, oh my God, I love your work. Your stuff's incredible, blah, blah, blah. And especially when the event thing started happening, because, like you'd meet up at these events with these big speakers, and the speakers, of course, were getting all this attention of, like getting on stage and get to talk about their career, and, and they'd only worked 10 years. And I mean, 10 years is definitely a long time, but for a lot of people, like say, like Mullins especially, like he worked, 20, 30 years in the industry before he was starting to do like talks and talking to people. So, and he'd had a stellar career, so, people who were doing it after, like, 8, 9, 10 years, it's hard to keep that in check and no think, too highly of yourself. It's a fine line of trying to move between arrogant and humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging to keep it in check.
Yeah.
And I think it's because a lot of people, when they get into this, like, they do kind of want the reason that you improve is like either you genuinely want to get better, or you kind of want the respect that comes with it.
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of people that are after the respect aspect, and not after the like self-fulfillment of it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. It's weird. I'm not really out of the like. I'm not one to chase the like respect of it. I just want my
Right.
clients to not hate me.
Of course.
And so that's all I care about. But yeah, there's definitely some ego that gets thrown in when when someone's put into some sort of like a position of power or whatever, or they're seen as like a certain level in the industry. And like,
Right.
it's hard not to get like that. It's hard not to like, like I sincerely hate when I find myself like throwing out that like I work on like League splash art or something, because I know like in an industry like this, like a lot of people see that as a big deal. And like, I don't like saying it because I don't want like I don't want someone saying like, oh, that's so cool, like, oh, that's amazing, like, you can teach me everything you know. And I'm like, I don't like I don't even feel that confident with what I'm doing. Like, I feel confident knowing that like I could do something, or I'll try my hardest on something, but like, to show someone else like what I'm doing, like, I'm not at that level yet. But some people are like, oh yeah, I'll show you everything, I'm pretty good at this. Like you said, I do the splash art, so here I gotta show you exactly how to be awesome like me. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be hard for you in the future as well, because I'm going to try to stroke your ego here, but I mean, it is true, but like, you're at a high level at a younger age than somebody at your level would usually be. You know what I mean? Like, people typically, like even 10 years ago, people were walking into Riot and Blizzard in their 40s. And that was like after spending so many years, like working on stuff in other companies and other small studios, and then building to, something like that, where, you're, how old are you now, Forrest?
26.
Yeah. which is still pretty young for the things you've accomplished. Even stuff like magic. Like that's it's also a big deal. So like yeah, it's something you'll probably come across because you've had a lot of success earlier on in your life than probably you expected. I think than maybe you thought you would have been. Uh,
I mean, I
but I don't know
wanted
what
it
you maybe.
earlier.
Well, yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, everybody does, right? everybody wants it when they're like 19, 20, right?
yeah, I know
Yeah.
that was like a really weird thing that I chased for a long time was, and it's weird to think about now because I've now like I've done these things, but I do remember really using my age as like a landmark and being like, well, I want to do this by the time I'm like 21. And then
Right.
like I didn't do it, but eventually did it. Like I eventually, like you said, like I eventually worked with Magic. It wasn't when I like
Yeah.
wanted to. And then
Mhm.
after I worked with them, like, you know, talk like conversations like this or just thinking back, I'm like, oh, why did I care if it was by 21? Like, I
Right.
think
Yeah.
I really needed something to work hard. Like I needed like a goal and like a deadline set in stone
Mhm.
so that I knew like this is when I have to get this done. So therefore I have to work super hard so that I can do it by then.
Yeah.
And like that worked for some things, that like that got me to work harder as far as, working towards being like a full-time freelance artist and stuff like that. But uh a lot of times it's completely out of your control if Magic is gonna hire someone.
Of course. Yeah.
Like I know artist like I just saw Jihyun Lee. Like Jihyun's such an amazing artist and he just released his first Magic card and it's like he could have worked for them years ago. And
Right.
like I don't know like if it's because they offered or what. Like I don't know the specifics about it, but like there's so many amazing artists that like could work on this thing, but just
Yeah.
for whatever reason like they aren't hired or they're not seen by them or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's timing as well, right? Just there's sometimes when like you're not ready or they're not ready, or there's some overlap where like you're on a project and you kind of quite get time free to do stuff, and of course when you start to get good and you start to get work, then it's like if something comes along that you're not quite ready for, you're like, oh shit, I can't quite take that opportunity right now. Maybe next year. So it's always a balancing act, right? When you're chasing this stuff, and you didn't want to get it too soon as well, and then blow the opportunity. Because I know, there's people who have took work, when they super weren't ready for that experience or that opportunity, and had a negative, experience with it, where they've worked with people and then they've thought, oh god, I'm like the weakest link here. Like, I've definitely felt like that myself. Like when I've got opportunities to walk into studios and intern or like speak with people, I'm always like, Jesus Christ, like everybody here is like, like over 9,000 and I'm sitting here batting at like 900, never mind 9,000. I mean, so it's, yeah, it's a hard thing to kind of judge, because even you might even be judging, somebody else's work, saying, oh, his stuff's awesome, but then like he could be like, oh no, I didn't feel like I'm ready, or I didn't feel like, I have the chops to stand against like other people, because as soon as you see like Magic, you just start comparing yourself to every single artist who's worked for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, where do you go for there? So yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, I mean, you mentioned like being nervous about taking on opportunities or not feeling ready and stuff. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of always had the philosophy of like, whether I feel ready or not, I have to accept something if it's something that's big enough. So, like, I definitely
Right.
did
Yeah.
not feel ready for a few things. I didn't feel ready for my first splash art with Riot. And that's like after working on multiple like League projects. It's after doing a ton of splash art for Smite. Like I did not feel prepared. I was
Right.
super, super nervous about it.
Yeah.
But I knew like, and I was also fully booked. I had so much freelance on my plate already.
Right.
And I was like, it doesn't like but this is how I've always handled things. I've always decided like it doesn't matter. And I have to take it.
Right.
And I did the same thing with Valve. When I got
Mm-hmm.
the project with Valve, I remember I was super stressed living in my apartment at that time and like
Yeah.
really stressing about like money. But then I was also having to deal with like new conflicting feelings of like imposter syndrome and stuff because I knew how big of a company Valve was. And Valve themselves in their email was like saying like we're specifically going after Magic the Gathering like artists, but I wasn't working with Magic at the time and I really wanted to. So the fact that they like were considering me at that level, like I remember just being in the shower and just like crying because I just like couldn't handle like I couldn't handle the
it was so
like the
intense.
pressure, of like what am I gonna do? Like what if I fuck this up? But I like I mean I just have always accepted whatever's coming because like I could mess it up, but like most clients, like I know at this point that like it's possible for me to mess it up, but I know I'm going to do my absolute best to not mess it up. Like I will work so goddamn hard to make sure that the client is at least somewhat satisfied with the thing that they get.
Of course.
And so far, like, you know, it hasn't failed me, but yeah, there's definitely been a lot of moments like, oh God, doing those first sketches for like the Darius splash that I did, like was so nerve wracking. Like I was so sweaty.
I mean, I totally didn't mean to laugh in your face when you said you were crying in the shower, but I think it was just the visual of you like naked in the shower, like crying.
It was so, I felt so crazy around that time, you know, and it's not the first time that I felt that way. You know, it's like, I didn't feel as nervous doing magic work. I think I just felt super like pumped and excited. I was like, fuck yeah. Like I'm totally going to do this. But there's some jobs that like came out of left field completely and like took me by such surprise that I like couldn't even mentally prepare myself. Like I was mentally preparing myself to work for Magic for a really long time. So when I got the job, I was like, this is it. This is my time to shine. This is my opportunity. Like I'm going to do as good as possible. But like I got the fucking email to do like League Splash out of nowhere. Like I did not expect to be given that offer. And I didn't expect to be given the Valve offer. Like that came out of nowhere. You know, I had no idea they were working on a game or a card game.
Yeah, but that was interesting as well because I think we talked about that as well, where when you worked for Riot initially, because you'd done so much stuff for Smite, like you tried to almost design a splash for Riot in Smite style, and then they were like, yeah, this isn't fitting our style. Obviously, this isn't what we do. And then you were like, oh shit, like a kind of oh fuck moment, like oh yeah, what am I doing? Like,
right,
because you were in that mindset for doing so many of those. So yeah, it's intense, man. Like I totally get it. I'm just going to jump in here as well and say that this is looking awesome. This is really fucking cool. We're at 23 minutes. I'm just double checking on the missing fingers and the dagger. I think that's the only two things that
about the
we're still.
Fingers. That's easy enough to add in.
Easy enough to do, yeah. You're probably going to have to hold the dagger with a the kind of blade that's. Oh, that would be interesting as well, though, because if he's missing fingers, maybe it's like an Assassin's Creed thing where there's like a blade. You know how they like cut their finger off so that the blade could like pass through the middle of their hand, so they could like make a fist basically, and then like, you know, it would poke through their middle finger, and
he's just gonna have a stub, and then inside that stub there's going to be a dagger sewn into his hand.
You were going to go for that. That's a good idea. Yeah.
There. Nah, I'm just going to do a hand.
Okay. Yeah. That would be a cool idea also. But then I think it's hard for that to conceal as well, right? So I think it'll be interesting with the missing fingers as well, because I'm sure like vampires and werewolves, like they regenerate, right? So it's like maybe he lost it before he turned. Maybe that's like a thing. I don't know. You know.
So I still want to have this kind of have the same design aesthetic.
Yeah, the kind of Eastern stuff. Yeah, I think with the time you've kind of got left, I think probably the most you'll be able to take it to is just flats, which is fine. Which is, you know, it doesn't need to be, you know, the end result for this isn't really that there needs to be a finished piece. It's just, you know, the stuff you've walked through when you've been doing this is like what people will take away is like, how did they come to X solution? Oh, well, I can see, you know, he done thumbnails and then he pushed the design aesthetic and then he done the line work. And so, yeah, it's like a thing where, you know, you don't have to, Yeah, I mean, like you can totally, afterwards, like develop this further if you want and keep pushing it. But for the sake of this, it doesn't need to be, like a fully finished piece.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how much time do I have left?
just coming up on 20 minutes. So
Oh,
20
okay,
minutes
yeah.
and
So,
46
I mean,
seconds.
I'll probably get into like flat colors and like kind of show how I like start rendering
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah. I mean, 20 minutes is enough maybe just to get something down. So
Yeah. It's so funny because like I just gave a talk for the visual arts passage. That was for John English's like online school. And I gave like a demo and it was going to be like how I start splash art and stuff.
right.
And I really was trying to get to the point that like I start rendering something, because rendering techniques have been something that I've like really been kind of honing on and like practicing for a little while.
Oh yeah, that's like when I look at your stuff, that's the one thing that definitely stands out amongst anybody else is like the level you take stuff to render wise.
Well, and that's what's funny is like the level I've been taking things to, I actually feel like I render faster and I actually don't render as much as I used to. But it looks
Right.
nicer.
Yeah.
And I just like, I haven't been able to do like a proper demo of that. I guess I've done it on like my Twitch stream and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's, having to work for so many Riot projects and stuff, and, looking at other studios like Six More Vodka and like their, like not their exact process, but just looking at like their kind of general like results with rendering.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, they have some absolute fucking superheroes working for them, though. They have some of the best folk in the industry.
Yeah, well, not anymore. I think SMV. I don't think any more artists are working with them. But yeah, a lot of amazing artists came out of that studio. I think they're going to be going off and doing tons of great stuff all around the industry. So trying to like reverse engineer what a lot of those artists did helped a lot as far as like streamlining my like rendering process and stuff. And like I was just rendering something the other day and like thinking like, God, this is so much faster than like what I used to do, which like what I used to do is like if I had something to render and let's say I was like rendering the light shadow of like this face here or whatever, I'd get in with, this little thing and I'd kind of noodle away at it, and I used to use these angular brushes a lot, and I'd kind of get in and get that like choppiness in there and get that texture and
Right.
I think it looks okay. You can get like good results with that for sure. And and I still get a little nitty gritty in there with like the rendering and stuff, but like I could alternatively just like take a lasso tool,
Right.
get that same shape or whatever, and take the same shadow, shade it in, and then add in the like midtone, and like you get the same kind of feel. Now you can still go in and get like texture and refine it and stuff like that. But like, just handling stuff like that has been so much faster for me. I don't think I want to go. I know the warm colors are kind of like what they're all about.
Right.
I don't know if I want to go the warm colors or if I want to like go with the
blue.
Yeah, I kind of want to do like blue and like have it be like they're really werewolfy, like night themed.
Oh yeah. Well, there was that one picture you had for the reference where the guy had like a blue cloak and a hat. So I mean, that would probably build into the thing you want to do.
And I want to have like his skin kind of pop and be like really warm in contrast to it. And then just the white hair, I think, could look really cool with all the cool colors.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get white hair.
I thought you were going to do the kind of stereotypical werewolf, the brown hair, the kind of just the fur, almost the map. But then I suppose,
I think all the white hair I saw and like a lot of these
oh,
guys
yeah,
are
yeah,
like the gray or whatever. Like I think that looks super cool. And again, it's very anime.
yeah, it's very so it's kind of demon-esque, isn't it? Because of the claws and
Yeah.
the paw pads and stuff, and yeah. I mean, I don't know if werewolves are considered demons. Maybe no.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
monsters maybe. Yeah.
Mine are going to be considered demons. Call my werewolves whatever the hell I want to call them.
That's it. Well, the white hair I think is very anime-esque, right? Like the white hair is always like akin to like gods and kamis and stuff. So
yeah. I
to
don't
put up
know
the
if
original. Yeah.
I don't know if changing the color scheme to blue is going to like remove, because I mean colors are such a big part of like various cultures, so I'm going to see if changing the colors is going to like take that feeling away from it. But if it isn't, then I'll stick to that probably, because I just think the blue, like I said, implies the whole nighttime thing.
So, say one of your first reference pictures, the guy had a dark blue cloak on. So, I mean, you're probably in the right kind of wheelhouse for it anyway. So,
yeah,
I like the kind of headpieces as well. Like they kind of mix as well. They could definitely sell what you're trying to do.
Skin is a little too orange now, and also on the same layer as this. So let's fix that. Yeah, I'm just trying to get like general like mid-tones, or sorry, not like general local colors of everything. And because once I have the local color established, then it's easier for me to go in and paint in the like how it reacts to like color and light and stuff like that.
Yeah. You're definitely going to have to be quick because you're down to 14 minutes now. So
14?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. Everything's fine.
So I'm saying, like, I think maybe flats is like as much as you're going to get, because it's funny though, because Thomas was the same. Like, he got to like the last 20 minutes and he was like, oh shit, like like oh fuck, oh no, and they started like just kind of panic painting, almost like, oh yeah,
just because
this
is like it's just because this is like my favorite processes. Once I get the colors in, getting to do the rendering and stuff.
It's a shame because, like you said, you want to do stuff for a bit longer, but like, it's trying to keep people's attention for longer than an hour and a half, because even that's like intense to sit through that kind of thing. So definitely if you're building like a tutorial series where you having to sit and watch the whole thing because you want to see the whole process, but yeah. I mean, I think even the thing you accomplished here was just the design aesthetic, like the whole, like the clothing, the look, the pose, the storytelling you got with that. Like, I think is definitely one of the high points. Like, even if it's not taken to a finished polish, like it's definitely, it's got its merits in what you're done. So yeah.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
it's awesome.
But
yeah, I mean, it's looking awesome. Yeah,
I kind of like it. I think it looks nice. It'd look a hell of a lot nicer if it were prettied up and rendered.
Yeah, the finished render. Yeah, we can do a thing where, like, even if you want to work on it afterwards, like we can add in, like at the end of the episode, we can link in what you finished and let people see what you kind of came up with.
We'll see. I gotta prioritize work after this.
Yeah.
Freaking hate
your
work.
Day will be starting. I just want to draw cool demon hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a struggle with the personal project thing, right? It's like trying to balance, because you've been doing like the t-shirt stuff as well recently. That's been really awesome, like the designs you've been doing. So
yeah, that's just kind of been like something totally different from what I normally do to zone out. And it's also nice because like I like working in something that's totally different, that like I don't know, when you receive like criticism so often for your job, you kind of just want to do something that like is like, I don't know. It's like it is critiquable, but what I'm doing is like I'm just doing it for my sake. I'm not doing it like I'm not trying to impress like other people with it or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just doing something that I wanted to do because it seemed cool to me. So it's easier for me to kind of like not worry about what other people are going to think. But if I'm working on like a big illustration for something, and someone, yeah, like I'm just naturally going to kind of think like, what, uh, you know, will people see this thing or people will see this thing? And it's like, will people find this cool or whatever? Like, what have other people
Yeah.
done when they've drawn this character? And like, that just kind of sucks. It kind of takes me out of the enjoyment a bit.
Yeah. Makes sense, man. Okay, we're coming up to the last 10 minutes, so I'm just not going to talk to you, and I'm going to just let you focus on this, and I'll hit you up when 10 minutes ends.
Okay. No pressure.
just the panic of juicy anymore. You're in your last 40 seconds.
Last how many seconds?
40 seconds.
Oh, I could finish this by then. Yeah. I'll finish the whole image. I'll totally do. Yeah. It's a tight deadline. I got this.
Yeah.
Well, I started rendering a little bit, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Got to play around with that.
I mean, I think Thomas was the same. Like, the face was like where he kind of put the last ditch effort, because it's probably the first thing people read right when they look at someone is their face. So
for me, it's just kind of like, it's like a little reward for like, oh, great, I got to this point in the stage. So like I was just working on an assignment yesterday that like reached this same like point, and I was like, oh, okay, great, I get to work on the face for a bit, because that's just to me, it's like one of the most fun things. I do think it is, because it's what people tend to look at first. So I want to make sure that that's like good and established, and it kind of acts as like a point for me to base the rest of the illustration off of.
Yeah.
But
and that's time. That's time. Done,
Cool.
Forrest. I mean, like, we both know that like at this point it's just time, right? Like, if you could spend another like maybe 2 hours on this, like it'd be done, so it's just interesting to see what people do with that time. I think the time's interesting as well, right? Because you get to this point with clients where you maybe have a week or a couple of days or whatever, but it's always interesting when you set these wee challenges like the hour and a half, like what can you accomplish in that frame? You know what I mean, like what's possible, or how do you feel you could push yourself at that point? So
right.
Yeah. But there's but it's just render now, because like you said, the design's there, the base is solid, so it's really just polished now, right? It's really just the fancy bells and whistles. So
yeah, I mean, if I were to send this to a client, like if they approved the design, then yeah, I would just basically render it up and finish it up. For myself, like I'd still probably leave some opportunity for me to like adjust the design as I move forward and stuff. But yeah, with the with the client, yeah, I definitely, if they've approved it, I don't want to like change it too much.
Mess with it too much, yeah. Well, like I said, if you can jump back in this, and then if you want to finish it, you can, and send me the final. But it's whatever you feel you want to do with it. But yeah, I think it's just a good exercise, and I think it's definitely something that it's maybe not something everybody should do, because you want to get the basics down first before you start pushing your design skills. You want to get at least the fundamentals down so you can draw a body before you start designing characters. But
right.
But yeah, at least it kind of shows the process of like how you would approach something like this, how you would execute. So
right.
I think on that we succeeded. So yeah, looking good, man. Awesome work.
Thanks.
If you guys are still here, thanks to for watching at this point. As always, I'll leave the links in the description below so you guys can get in contact with Forrest, or if you've got any other questions you want maybe me to jump onto, you can always leave them in the comments as well. If you are listening on any of the podcast services we're on, so Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, check out the YouTube version, of course, because this was a live demo. You can see Forrest's approach to this design and how he tackled it, and then of course maybe learn something yourself that you think you could apply to your own artwork. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any requests for other people you want to see do this challenge, just hit me up in the Discord, which you can join below also, and just let me know. I can always reach out to people and see if they would be up for doing it. Probably if Forrest has a gap again, we could probably maybe do another one, and maybe a bit longer or something like that. We can figure it out, or maybe even something we can do in parts. We'll try and figure out what the next step is. But yeah, that's it. Thanks to you guys for listening. Thanks again, Forrest, for coming on. It was awesome, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it, I don't know, somewhat useful or somewhat interesting. So yeah, cool. Forrest, of course, has his own YouTube channel and bits and pieces that he has, including the Basics Beginner series that covers a lot of what he talked about, perspective anatomy, color, light, all that kind of stuff. So again, I'll leave that down below, and yeah, we'll speak to you guys later. See you later, guys. Thanks. Bye.